How's it going, everybody? Good evening. Welcome to Carpo's Reality. Start out by taking a toke of some Durban poison and do my best to get this video out without being interrupted or somehow distracted like I usually am. I wanted to just say hey to everybody, and I figured I'd just share kind of a interesting owl-related event that's been happening to me lately. The current headband I'm wearing, I recently went down to the Fish concerts about a week ago, and my wife and I decided to go without tickets, hoping we'd get in. We didn't get tickets. They were pretty sold out, and they were hard to come by. I wasn't going to pay scalper prices. I went down and I picked up we went down to the first show the first night. Then my wife got sick that night, and she wasn't feeling well the second day. So I decided to wander around and explore Bend by myself. So I drove up into the hills, then came back down, and I stopped at a grocery store, then went to this craft store. Went into the back of the craft store, and decided I would pick up a few things, and I decided I'd get a new headband. Went back there, and I got my favorite color, orange. And then, lo and behold, the entire section was just loaded with probably 60 different types of headbands. And so I went through and looked at the usual nonsense, flames and skulls and whatnot, and then I came across this one. The owl with the heart, the butterfly, the flowers, and it really got to me. And so I bought it and a few other ones. And that night, my wife was feeling a little better, so we went down to the concert. And once again, we didn't get in. As we're walking across this pedestrian footbridge by the stadium, there's a kid, a guy about in his 20s, sitting out there painting a picture of an owl in the middle of the bridge. And I walked up and talked to him, and he was wearing a headband too, which was kind of funny. And so we started talking, and I talked to him about my owl, and he was saying he'd been feeling very, like it was, the owl was speaking to him lately, and so I found that interesting. Proceeded to go about my night. Later on when I got home, I had a couple more incidents where owls would come up, and then just today, my wife put on the show that we had gone to, the concert, and since we didn't get in, I never saw the stage set up. But right on the stage behind the band was an owl, of course. And I just laughed thinking about it. Then I was looking at their tour label, the 2015 tour thing, and it has this like triangle with these two dots, which I recognized it's an owl. It's an interesting thing that this owl keeps coming up, but owls are usually associated with the obvious things. Some people say omens, some people say death, some people say wisdom. I decided to do a little research on it. And sure enough, they have to often signify death, but not death in the sense of literal human death. It's often more of a change, or going through a major change, or getting rid of bad habits, which I found interesting because I've been smoking on and off for the last year or so since my back was messed up, and now that it's better, I have no excuse to have even a few cigarettes every day. So I decided that night I was going to quit, having nothing to do with the owl or knowing anything. Hey, little hummingbird pollinating the flowers there. So I had this decision to quit, and it happened right along the time when the owl thing happened. And I love it when the animals pop in at the right time, and it is what you make of it. Hi, buddy. As far as what you believe animals to represent. But owls signify not only wisdom and death, but also major change and speaking the truth, at all costs. Not afraid to speak what I believe to be true, even when it costs me sometimes my ability to get along with certain people. So, the hummingbird is chasing the blue jay up into the tree. That was pretty good. Nice. Now he's back down there pollinating. He's like, these are my flowers. I love watching nature operate. Anyway, that's off the beat. I guess that's not really off the subject. There's Hey, buddy. Oh, weird. The hummingbird's just sitting there kind of waving around looking at me. I'd show y'all, but wouldn't show up on the camera anyway. So, I guess that's all I gotta say. Just the owl story. And, you know, I've had various totem animals over the years that I carry around as my friends. I have an owl. I also have a couple of bear necklaces that I wear. One in particular is just a black bear that I wear on a little sterling silver bear, and it's like a protection symbol for me. It's a humble. A person would think that the bear is something that's very, you know, symbolic of maybe, you know, brute strength or something. It's not like that. The bear would symbolize. The bear has the ability to hibernate in the winter, to sleep, gather its thoughts, live lean, and then in the summer take fruition, take flight. Anyway, these are the things that I think about. Animals and their relation to people, and the connections that we have with our totem animals, which we create for ourselves. I've gone back and forth on the issue of totem animals, like, you know, like, okay, is this something that's real or is this something that's created? I mean, obviously it's an anthropomorphic version of, you know, it's a way of putting animals into human terms and finding human attributes to associate to animals, such as an animal that represents, you know, action, or an animal that represents, you know, hibernation or whatnot, that we compare them to certain emotions that we have within ourselves. Honestly, you know, when people talk about the owl and people are like, oh yeah, the wisdom of the owl, I laugh because I used to collect owl pellets with my brother. And owls, yeah, they're smart. They're actually some of the quietest animals. They're some of the greatest hunters, and they're amazing and they're beautiful, but they're not that smart. They'll swoop down and they'll try to, like, you know, shit on you when you're going in to get the pellets because they think you're going for their babies, but they'll get themselves stuck in weird areas where they can't get out. They're very awkward animals. And while they may be intelligent, I honestly, you can look into the eyes of a crow. I think a crow is a great representation of. This is a picture I found because I wanted a crow with a French fry in his mouth for like an avatar for my channel, and I had that on there for a while. And it was a crow with a French fry in his mouth. There's a lot, you know, if you search pictures of anything now, you're going to find them. A crow with a French fry represents the intelligence of nature, one of the most intelligent animals in nature that lives side by side with man, that is still wild, thriving because of man's discarded waste and excessive living and decadence. It's people talk about the birds, you know, it's not that far off, honestly. Nature won't take over because it wants its space back. Nature will take over because we allow it to prosper and flourish. The reason why we have rat problems in the cities, you know, the reason why we have cockroach problems in the cities. All of the pests, most of the pest environments that we have are a result of, at least the chronic ones, are a result of our own living conditions, you know. So, anyway, even those can be totem animals, those strange, nasty creatures like we like to think of as rats. I used to have rats. I used to have 7 pet rats. Let's see, there was Little Girl, there was Chippy, there was Bernie. Oh gosh, Sniffles. Sniffles was a white one that was always sniffling, but anyway, when you raise rats and mice, you start to learn a lot about them and how smart they really are, and you start to relate to these animals that are coming into our society, or I should say have always been in our society, but that come into our lives in these areas where previously maybe there was no rat problem. Like we've had problems.